Dear CAC family, I have something that I want to share with you today. On May 13th, as you are probably aware, Governor Kate Brown issued a new ruling on masks, stating that vaccinated individuals no longer need to wear a face mask except in designated areas like schools and healthcare facilities, planes, airports, things like this. And then 5 days later, on May 18th, the Oregon Health Authority clarified what is meant by that. Masks are not required only in cases where a person's vaccination status is checked and confirmed. So what this means for all faith institutions, including our church, is that we are required to enforce the state mask mandate unless we develop a policy and practice for checking people's vaccination status at the door before we would let them in to our facilities. Now, our leadership has talked about this and agrees that the best way forward for our church at this time is to continue to require the wearing of a face mask for in-person worship and for all other events that may be held at our church, versus developing a policy and taking the steps to check your vaccination status at the door. And so therefore, nothing will change at this time. Masks are still required. Now, throughout the pandemic, as guided by Romans 13 and 1 Peter 2, we as a church have sought to submit to our governing authorities as we are asked to do. We have sought to comply to the guidelines that have been given to us by our national and our state leaders. And we do this in a spirit of submission and for the common good, for loving our neighbors. And so we are going to continue to take these recommendations that come down to us seriously and prayerfully as we make any decisions in response to them. Now, my hope is that we can live out the double command that we are to love God with all our hearts and that we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. And my prayer is that we as a church can avoid the fractures, the divisions that have come to characterize our country and a growing number of churches, not just in our community, but across our country. I want to end with a statement that comes from Pastor Rich Villadas of New Life Fellowship in Queens, New York City. And this is what he wrote to his congregation last week regarding the new information on wearing a mask. He goes, "We have lost over 500,000 people in our nation and many more around the world. The past year has been one of the most painful and disorienting years we've ever experienced. Countless families continue to mourn the losses they've had to endure. Many are still working through financial troubles and emotional trauma. In light of this, we are called to be gracious to one another in the bond of Christ's love." With love, this comes to you from myself, our elders, and our administrative board. So thanks for listening. My final word is don't give up. Don't lose hope. We will get through this pandemic and the frustrations and hardships and questions that it's raised and put us through. We will get through it in time by God's grace and by God's power. Thank you for listening.